Hello and welcome to Wehry Dads. I'm your host, Pete Wehry, with my co-host,
Dad. And today, Dad's pumped because
Yeah.
today I get to have fun with two friends of mine.
Absolutely. And who we have today is Kurt and Charlie Cramer.
Before we do that, today's episode is brought to you by Donut Coffee. I drink it every day, but they don't support us, and I wish they would. And if you guys have either of you ever had the donut coffee? It's almost like
Keurig.
Yeah, it's Keurig. It's almost like Dunkin' Donut coffee. Either of you had that?
No.
Okay. That's probably why they don't support us, because they're not really killing it. But if they ever were to make money, I want them to support us. Go ahead, Peach.
So this is our second in our Build to Last interview, series of interviews. And today we're going to be talking about how to build a family business to last and to build it the right way. And so really excited to have you guys on today. Coach, if you kind of want to introduce Charlie and Kurt, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so today we have Charlie and Kurt Cramer. God brought them into my life 9 years ago, and they have forever been scarred. Drew went to the First Academy, played football, and in so doing, he had an offensive line coach. I didn't know who he was. We made fun of each other, kind of started to like each other. When I joined Nations of Coaches, they partnered with us. It's a crazy story. But these two men love God. They love each other most of the time, correct? You guys love each other most of the time?
Yeah, I think so.
Kurt, you haven't said anything. This may be the highlight of my day, okay? Because, folks, I don't know. Kurt and I can talk. But here's what I want to do. Charlie, we're going to open with you. Charlie Cramer, tell us your background. Tell us where you grew up, how God led in your life to start the insurance business you did, and explain kind of what you did.
Well, I was born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio. My father worked in a steel mill. My mother owned her own beauty shop, both extremely hard workers. And that transferred on to me as I moved forward. I was involved, played football, basketball, ran track, played a little baseball, didn't care much for baseball. I was the first male in our family to graduate from high school. I was the first male in our family to attend college, and obviously the first to graduate from college. I went to Youngstown State. Both my parents were believers, so I came from a Christian home, and I was raised with Christian standards. My mother in particular was extremely strong in the faith. As Dr. Jeremiah says, he was drugged as a child. That means he was drugged to Sunday morning, Sunday night, and every Wednesday night church services. And that's about what it was like with me. I accepted Christ and was baptized at 11 years old, and was fortunate to have had parents who led me down that path and put me in a position where I would be able to accept Christ as I did.
That's awesome. How did you end up in Florida?
Well, when I graduated from college, I needed a job. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, and I knew I had a degree, but I had no clue as to what I wanted to do. I just knew that I had a degree, and I needed a job. And somehow I heard about insurance adjusting. And so I interviewed with the company and took that job with them. They moved us from Youngstown I was married at the time. Brenda was pregnant with Charlie. They moved us to Canton, Ohio, and I knew we went on our honeymoon a few years prior to that we came to Florida, and the decision was made in my mind that I wanted to live in Florida.
There you go.
So we proceeded down that road, but the company I was with had other ideas. They moved us from Youngstown to Canton, then north to Cleveland, then north to Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I was going in the wrong direction. And I had, there was no secret what I wanted to do, that I wanted to be in Florida and I wanted to move to Florida. And it came to a point where there was the job I had in Michigan. It was a regional job, and there was 2 regions in Florida, and that same job was open in Jacksonville and Miami. So I made a real bold move, and it was a bold move for me. I wrote to actually the president of the company. This is a big company, big international company, largest insurance adjusting company in the world at the time. But I wrote and said, hey, I know these 2 openings are there, and I'd like one of them. It doesn't matter which one, but you know that I've wanted to go to Florida. And I basically told him that the time had come that I was either going to go to Florida with them as a company or without them. Well, that wasn't the case. I wasn't going anywhere without them. I had a wife, a car payment, or a wife and a house payment, and I wasn't going anywhere without them. I needed a job.
Which one of those was more important, the wife or the house payment? You got to lump those together.
So in any event, they offered me the job in Miami, and I not only was offered the job, but they moved us to Miami, and awesome. We lived in Coral Springs for a few years. And
what years was that?
What years that would have been in 1972 that we moved to Miami.
So now we know why Kurt always has the Dolphins clothes on. This is all stuff that makes sense. So Kurt literally grew up. He was weaned on Larry Zonka. I mean, that's amazing. That's awesome.
Yes, that's right. That and the Hurricanes.
Yep.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And that was rolling then. I mean, that was all going on. In fact, I think I brought it up by mistake. We were golfing. And by the way, folks, you don't know that Kurt and I get to golf sometimes. And the last time we golfed, Kurt didn't play well. But worse than that, I played so bad that I literally, when they asked Kurt, hey, what's your handicap? He said, Pete. So literally, I say that to you, but somehow I brought up Doug Flutie's name, and Kurt was ready to say things that we don't want on air, and I understood that now. That's awesome. Kurt, all right, tell us a little bit about being a Cramer, childhood. Don't tell us about Covenant and how you were not doing what you were supposed to do, then God got your heart. That's just, I filled in that blank. But tell about your dad's influence, and then you just said, hey, I want to work with Dad. Tell us, and then you have shared this with me, to me, folks, and I want you all to hear, this is powerful.
Well, wanting to work for Dad started, when I was a kid. Quite honestly, the support I had from my mom and dad growing up, I felt like I could do anything. Now, that's not true, but I felt like I could because of the support I had and the encouragement that I had from my parents. And if it was something that I wanted to go after and something I wanted to do, and it was proper and right, they would do everything they could to put me in a position to succeed with that. And one of the things in particular is people are always perplexed with this today. To me, this was normal, but it instilled in me to do the same thing with my kids, and that was when I was growing up, I was in sports all the time. I don't ever remember my mom and dad not present at a game, ever. They never missed a game. If they did, I wasn't aware of it. They might have walked in late, but they were always present in my games. I always got picked up at practices by my mom and dad, by one of them or both of them. There were times when I was young, I played Pop Warner football, believe it or not, and hated it. Hated it to the point where I would just sit there and cry about going to practice. I hated practice. Everybody hates practice, but I hated it. But quitting wasn't an option. And I remember asking, I want to quit. Well, it wasn't an option. I mean, it wasn't even up for discussion. The answer was no. We don't quit. You started it, you finish it. And And they didn't put me in it because they wanted me in it. They put me in it because I wanted to play. At least I thought I did. And everything, football kind of went away, and I started playing basketball. And I think probably one of the great testaments of both my mom and dad is the fact that I don't think they missed a basketball game. I played varsity basketball when I was in 8th grade. And I don't know that they ever missed a game in 5 years of me playing. Now, my brother played. He was 3 years older than me during that time as well. But Dad and Mom never missed a game. Never.
Did they miss Charlie's games? Did they miss Charlie Jr.'s games on purpose, maybe?
Well, he was a bit of an embarrassment, so I would understand if they did. But actually, Charlie was a pretty good basketball player.
Yeah, I know that.
And stuff, too. So I will have to give him props on that. But he was a good cheerleader as well. But yeah, no, Mom and Dad never missed a game. Literally, never missed a game. And then when I went to college, I go to college in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and to play basketball as well. And I would venture to say Dad probably and Mom, and then there was times when it was just Dad I bet they made 80% of my games. I mean, I had teammates that lived in Atlanta, were an hour away, or lived in Chattanooga, and their parents, my dad and mom, made more games than my teammates' parents who lived in town. So, the support and the encouragement I had was incredible growing up, but also the example I had of hard work and drive. Hard work and drive will get you somewhere.
Yeah.
Being smart is great, but that only can get you so far if you don't have a drive to work hard and to accomplish something. And the other side of that is you don't wait for people to dictate what you're going to do. Go after it.
Yeah.
And I just felt like that was something that Dad always instilled in me and stuff. But we were a close family. When Dad started his business, 1981, I didn't really know a whole lot about it at all. But by my senior year in high school, I was like, well, I'm going to go work for Dad. And I'm not real sure if I asked him if he wanted me to or not. I think I just said, Dad, I'm going to go work for you. And the response was, well, that's fine, but you're going to do one or two things. You're going to go to the military or you're going to get a degree. And I wasn't a bad student, but I didn't enjoy school and stuff. So I obviously went to college and got a degree. But I'm not real sure if Dad was real excited about me potentially coming to work for him or not, because I'm a lot like Dad. And so I'm also very hard-headed and I'm driven to the point where I don't take instruction great either. So I think initially Dad had some trepidation on, I'm not real sure about Kurt joining.
Every game when I traveled, I would turn around on the bus and look, and there was a green LeSabre behind that bus. It was my parents. And I will tell you, I don't forget that. And you don't know this. If there's one, I don't want to use the word regret, but I do, that I have, is when I started coaching colleges, when he went into his sophomore year, and I had been not only at every game, I was the coach, right? I coached him in high school. And if there's one regret, is that sometimes I couldn't be at his games because we played the same nights. I don't even like talking about it. It bothered me.
Can I ask a question?
Please do.
Yeah. So I want to hear that bit of the story from Charlie's perspective. So yeah, Kurt was like, I don't know if Dad even wanted me to join the company. Like, I mean, you're right here, Charlie. What what did you think when he said he wanted to come work for you?
Oh no, I was proud of that. That was never an issue. I never had any problem with that. I knew what I had and what I was getting with Kurt. I had no problems with that.
Hey, I'm gonna ask you this, Charlie, if you don't mind sharing. I think Kurt mentioned it. 1981, you started the business in Florida, right?
Right.
You told me this one time, and it has stuck with me forever, because we hear all the time that You got to get your lucky break, blah, blah, blah. But can you share, if you don't mind, how you took a loan and you basically put your neck on the line, right? And
Yes.
started the, can you give us a background on that?
Yeah. Our business was, I had a pretty good job.
Hmm.
It wasn't a job that paid real well, but it was a job from a title standpoint. When you tell people what you did, it sounded pretty good. I was a regional manager in Florida. I ended up with I had half the state, then I had the whole state, and then I had the Caribbean and Central America also, and it sounded real good, and it was good. It was a job that I loved,
Hmm.
but there were three things that happened when I worked for this company, which, like I said, was a extremely large company, and it was sort of a strike one, strike two, strike three type of deal. And when it hit strike three, I said, "This is not a company that I feel like I can work for long term." And I never lacked confidence, but I started thinking about doing my own thing and starting my own company. And I had a couple people that worked for me that I knew that if I went out on my own, I was relatively certain they would be interested in going with me.
Yeah.
And they both had different strengths. And my only problem was uh, I didn't make enough money to save much money. So I was a little on the short side financially. But I decided to make that move and go out on my own. By then, we had in 1978 we moved to Orlando. It was 1981, and I was enjoying my job. I had a lot of things about it I liked. But in 1981, I decided something happened, and I decided to make a move and go out on my own. And I took a loan for $10,000, which was out of sight for me. And we started a business and opened up an office here in Orlando. And one of the guys that was the manager for me of the Orlando office of the company I worked for came with me, and he was a minor partner, and I had what was referred to in our business as an executive general adjuster in Jacksonville, Dave Johnson. And Dave was he was 10 years older than me, 7 years older than me, and he went with us also. And Dave gave us credibility as a really heavyweight adjuster. Dave handled extremely large, very large, complicated losses, and had quite a following in the insurance industry. The other fellow who managed the Orlando office likewise had a strong local following to get local business. So in any event, we went out and started the business, and I can recall a particular time when I was going to Atlanta to call on some companies, and I took my checkbook and I gave it to my secretary, and I told her that I said, "Barb, payroll's going to come while I'm gone. If we don't get some money in the door, somebody doesn't pay some bills for us, some of our invoices, then write check out of write whatever you need out of my checking account." And at that time, I think I had about $3,000. Well, while I was gone, the fellow here in Orlando had settled a large loss, and it was for a company that was domiciled in Orlando, or at least their branch office was in Orlando. And he took his final report along with the service invoice up to this company and gave it to him. And the claims manager there said, "Hey, I know you guys are just starting out and you probably could use some money." He said, "Sit here for a minute, I'll get you a check." And he went and had a check drawn to pay that service bill, and that took care of our payroll that was coming up, and then a couple other things happened, and we sort of took off like a jet plane, and then we just never looked back. The business went from there, and we grew and accomplished far more than I ever had dreamed of accomplishing. It was really not someone mentioned something about a family business. In a sense, it was a family business, but from the standpoint of a blood family, it was not a family business, because I had some other partners, albeit that they were minor partners, but it was I tried to run it like a family business. Whenever you're gonna, I learned some things looking back that still are true to this day, and that is, you start something like this with God. If you do that, everything else will be out of alignment until you've balanced out that relationship. And I felt strongly about that, discovered what God wanted me to do, and just followed it with my whole heart and just kept after it. I felt like to grow a company, I was going to have employees, I was going to have to treat them properly, and along with that, I was going to have to treat customers properly. I tried to create a customer-oriented company, and I knew that if we solved problems for customers, they would come back to us. They would like that, and that has happened more often than not. In fact, just recently, I can recall there was at the RDV complex, they had a roof collapse, large roof, and the companies that wrote that business interruption, contents, building coverage, they gave that loss to another adjuster, or to an adjuster, not another adjuster, to an adjuster. And it wasn't very long, and that thing wasn't going right. Well, who did they call? They called Kurt. This is a $35 million plus loss, and they had problems, and they needed their problems solved, so they called Kurt, because they knew that Kurt could solve those problems. And that was strong for us. I tried to beat that into employees all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you're already kind of touching on it, but if you could list like 3 practices or values that have been really core to your family and to your business, and is there any crossover between those?
Well, I've got more than 3, actually.
That's totally fine too. Yeah.
Yeah, we got all day, Charlie, except for Kurt's got a 10 o'clock appointment. So give us a couple of them.
I give you a few here. First of all, I worked by priorities. My priorities were very simple. God was first, Brenda was second, the boys were third, and work was fourth. And it's very easy to get that mixed up and get work up there in the first 1, 2, 3 spot, and it doesn't work that way. It had to be God, Brenda, the boys, then work. And I didn't make a secret of that. That's just the way it was. Another thing, and Kurt mentioned this, I have 3 absolutes at that time, and I still have them. And they are integrity, work ethic, and common sense. You got to be honest. You got to have a strong work ethic. You're not going to accomplish a blasted thing if you don't have a strong work ethic. And you also have to have some common sense. Somebody said, if common sense was so common, how come there isn't more of it? But our business is generally not black and white. It's somewhere in the middle. It's a gray area, and common sense is critical. But work ethic, you've got to be a strong worker and not afraid to jump in and go and do what you need to do. And of course, you have to be honest. Character is another key attribute I hope to install in the boys from a work standpoint, from a family standpoint, God chose me to be the father of these two boys, and I had to be present in their daily lives. A child wants a dad who's present, not perfect, but present. And I felt like one of my jobs as a dad was to show the boys the world, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And they saw all parts of it. You see all parts of it in our business. Like Kurt said, we don't quit. Quitting is easy. Anybody can quit, but we don't quit. We keep going. When the going gets tough, like they say, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And to love Jesus, that was strong. From a business standpoint, a lot of those same things overlap into our business. But when I was before I started the business, I became a follower of Zig Ziglar, strong Christian man. And I read every one of his books multiple times. I listened to his tape series, See You at the Top. I listened to that so many times that I could have filled in for him. But Zig had 6 attributes that became our attributes as a company, and we published them. People knew that they were what we were about, and I'll touch on them. The first was honesty. Teach others to lie for you, and before you know it, they'll be lying to you. The second was character. The ability to carry out a good resolution long after the emotion of the moment has passed. The third was integrity. Determines the difference between winners and losers. Trust, the difference between super successful and moderately successful is the element of trust. Love, number 5, is when you do the things that are best for the other person, not necessarily the things that they want, but it's best for them. And in business, you find that comes up frequently. The last thing was loyalty. Strong family commitments and loyalty develops a surplus of creative energy. Those were 6 foundational stones for our business that I preached all the time. And as our business got going, I had the 2 primary guys that started in the business with me. I got them copies of Zig's tapes and his books, and we spent a lot of time on the road, a lot of time driving, and we never listened to radio. We listened to Zig. And honesty, character, integrity, trust, love, and loyalty were the things that we concentrated on. Like I say, these, do they overlap? Yes, they overlap, business and family, but they're all strong traits and something to be admired. I relish the day that I got acquainted with Zig Ziglar. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but I guess I was searching for something, and God led me to Zig Ziglar.
That's awesome. And so I kind of wanted to ask you something, Kurt, because I feel like there's a story here. Charlie, you mentioned common sense. Kurt, can you expound on that a little bit? What did that look like, learning about common sense from your dad?
Common sense, man, was just being solution driven. So when you get a problem, I mean, I always remember Dad would tell me, "Don't come to me with a problem without having a solution." Which what it did was it caused me to think. It caused me to see a problem and go, "I think this is the solution to it," and then go and experience whether or not that was the right solution. But I'm solution driven as a result of that, because it empowered me. That empowered me. It gave me the ability to think for myself. Now, it also allowed me to come to him with a problem or something and go, "Hey, what do you think? This is what I think. What do you think?"
Yeah.
I want to go
Yeah.
to the two guys that Dad spoke of.
Yeah.
Both of those men invested in my life as well.
Yeah, that's big.
And to this day, they thought so much of my father that they thought a lot of me. And so when I joined the company and I joined the business, those guys invested in my growth as an adjuster, and specifically the one that lived here in Orlando. And so because I reported pretty much directly to him as well as one other guy, but their investment in me as well. They it helped form me. I mean, I'm not sure that I've been around a lot of people who are extremely smart and highly intelligent. But what I found in that too was, for the most part, this isn't always true. They didn't have much of a drive. They didn't have much of a work ethic. If it came easy, they were all in. If it was difficult, they were all out.
Yeah.
And, and I think with common sense, I saw my father. I will tell you, I still think to this day he's one of the wisest men I've ever been around in my life. But it's not a wise in a book smart type of way. Dad has a street smart, a culture smartness that you don't learn in a classroom.
Yeah.
And you don't learn it in a book other than God's word. And so what I found, what I saw with my dad, and that to this day, when he spoke about the priorities of God, Mom, and then my brother and I, and then work, I instilled that. Again, that's another example that I instilled in my own family. It was God, it was my wife, and it was my 3 kids, and it was work. And I was going to be ever present in their life. I was going to be at practices. I was going to be at games. I wasn't going to miss. People weren't going to ask, "Where's your father at tonight?" They're going to see me there, and stuff. I mean, but here's the cool thing with that. That started convicting parents who weren't there. That started convicting parents who were not always present, who had their priorities upside down. Work was their thing, and everything flowed. They would sit there and make excuses. Yeah, but if I don't do this job, if I don't go do this, and I'm not out of town, well then, I can't provide for my family. Well, that's not true. That's not true. Dad had to be out of town, but he was never out of town when I was playing. Never.
Yeah.
The common sense thing again. I think we all have common sense. It's just a matter of practicing the common sense and then the application of it.
Yeah.
I still think common sense is tied into a drive and a work ethic, because you learn so much about yourself and you learn so much about everything around you when you're like that.
You're not honest with yourself. That's where you let those lies creep in. That makes a lot of sense. Quick question, and I'll let Coach jump in, but this has come up in a couple of these interviews. Did Charlie take you to work ever with him when you were younger?
Not that I can remember, no.
Oh, okay.
I'd have been a distraction, I'm quite certain. I wanted to go to work for Dad because I wanted to work for Dad. I didn't have a monetary goal. I didn't want to do it because, I can be rich. That was not the reason. It just wasn't. I just wanted to be around my father. And I wanted to do things that my dad did. And there were some intriguing aspects of our business that I wanted to be involved with. And he knew it. And I told him, I said, I want to do this. But there's a pecking order. Just because you're Charles Cramer's kid doesn't mean you just go ahead and get it. You got to work to it. You've got to earn that right and stuff. And I found out real fast in our industry what our name meant. I had no idea until I started working, and people were, then all of a sudden it was, "Hey, are you Charles Cramer's kid? Hey, are you related to Charles Cramer?" I was like, "Well, yeah," and everybody started telling me that. Well, then I'll never forget this. I had a client look at me one time from London. They were over here, and while they were here, they were visiting Dad, and I was introduced to them. A loss came in that what this guy was overseeing, and I got it. And he told me, he says, essentially, you better handle this like your dad would handle this.
No pressure.
And I remember sitting there and I was like, okay. But I'm okay with that. That's what there is some pressures with that. But I'm gonna tell you, I like the pressure. I enjoyed the pressure. I enjoyed the heat.
Yeah.
I wanted to please Dad. I handled something, I didn't want there to be a problem with what I was doing because I knew who would get the call.
Hey, I gotta say this. So he didn't take you to work when you were younger. You guys need to know this, and this is going to be an interesting thing. My dad took me to the bank when he was a banker. Okay, straight up true story. I'm in the bank, and for those of you who don't know, my dad was a bank manager. When you go to the where they keep the money, the vault,
the safe, the vault.
Go to the safe. Two people know that combination, and each of them only know half of it. Did you know that? So the woman, So the woman went up and did the combination, and then I am like 10 or 11. I'm behind my dad, and he is so focused on what he's doing, he's not paying attention to me at all. And I out loud go, 101, 62, 43, 19, 7. And when I said 7, my dad's head snapped around. He goes, did you just say all those numbers out loud? And I went, yeah, I watched you, Dad. And he goes, are you kidding me? And they had to call in and change the whole vault combination because of me. That's probably why he didn't bring you in, Kurt, because he was afraid you would be, although you're probably smarter, you have common sense and our family doesn't. Hey, we're going to finish up with this.
Yeah.
Charlie, I want you briefly to share, and then Kurt briefly share. What's the greatest opportunity you had with Kurt that sticks in your mind, memory that stirs your heart and makes you extremely grateful and proud about Kurt? And then Kurt, vice versa, about your dad. And it could be an instant, or it could be just an overall theme. Charlie, what makes you proud about Kurt?
Well, there's a lot, but Kurt has become the father that I always wanted to be, and that I hope I was. He was successful, worked hard with his basketball. He had Cramer speed, which meant that he was like a slow moving tractor trailer. But Kurt's led all 3 of his children to the Lord, which is the best of the best. But he made me proud as an adjuster also. Kurt, Kurt didn't come to work with our company and sit under me and work for me. He never reported to me. He had other people. And I never wanted to hear about a problem with him reporting to a branch manager and that manager did or didn't do. I didn't want to hear about it. Mm-hmm. He had to, I felt like it would not be advantageous for him or our company for me to show favoritism to Kurt. Mm-hmm. But going back to what Kurt was talking about, there was a time in our business when I was very active in the adjusting of losses as well as running the business. And it became less and less and less as the years went by. But I had one, we called it a book of business, which is a type of business, like if you have a hotel business. But this was jewelry business, handling jewelry, losses at jewelry stores, and it was in the Caribbean. Kurt found out about me doing that, and I don't know how it really happened, but all of a sudden, I mean, I had accounts that I handled down in the Virgin Islands and all over, from Jamaica and way down to the ABC Islands. And I handled losses down there all the time. And Kurt wanted to do that business. And I'm sure we talked about it at some time or other. I can't remember when, but somehow he started handling that business. And then I started hearing about Kurt's on his way to St. Thomas. I said, what's he going to St. Thomas for? Well, he's got a jewelry loss. What do you mean he's got a jewelry loss? That's my business. Well, he had little by little taken that over. And I, at the same time, moved pretty much out of adjusting altogether. I remember talking with Kurt and helping him on some stuff with the jewelry business, because that's a unique type of business, and those are very unique losses. But I was very proud of the way, from a business standpoint, the way that he conducted himself when he went to London to visit clients. He did a good job. He made a good appearance and talked well and knew how to handle himself in that type of an environment. So those are the things that I'm exceedingly proud of. And from a career standpoint, he's made some moves that have been really great. I see what he's done with some of the inner city kids that he's mentored, and how efficient he is with that, and it makes you proud to see that.
It's awesome. Kurt, briefly share what's when you sit and think your dad, why are you proud?
The number one thing is how he takes care of my mom and loves my mom.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's the number one thing, that if you don't do that right, everything else doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And actually how he loves the Lord. His example as a godly man, godly father, Christian man, balancing the scriptures with life, making hard decisions that the world says is okay, but God's word says no. Those probably stick out more than anything. But mom and dad have been the example. They're going to be 60 years of marriage. I believe it's 60 in June.
wow.
And
Awesome.
That's, unfortunately, it's rare. And stuff, but it makes me and our family, and I'm sure my brother and his proud, because that's the kind of example that we have.
It should be, yeah. It should make you proud.
Awesome.
And stuff.
Hey, real quick,
that's
Kurt,
really the biggest thing.
Both of you had great answers on that. I mean, I just thought, Kurt, Charlie, what you said about Kurt right away, especially about his heart and so forth, and then about Brenda. I do need to ask: has your wife ever done wrong?
She probably has, but no, I'm not afraid. She probably has, but I can tell you this: with what she's put up with me over all these years, but particularly since the accident in 2018, there's not a lot of women that could handle that, and she's handled it well.
Mom is just an incredible example of a homemaker, of contentment, of hard work. I mean, Mom, still to this day, I can't tell you what her age is because she might slap me for it, but she's older than me by a lot. And
that makes biological sense.
That was deep, Kurt. That was powerful.
And I called her one day and I said, and just to, hey, Mom, how you doing? And she goes, I just came in. She goes, I've been out since 8 o'clock this morning. I can't, it might have been like 1 or 2 o'clock. She's out picking up sticks and branches and working in the yard and pulling weeds. I mean, that's just Mom.
Awesome.
Mom,
Yeah.
Mom does not sit idle and watch TV and all that junk. She just doesn't. She grew up on a farm. You work.
Yeah.
And that's another example from a female side of being a driven person in hard work. I am who I am today in that aspect because of the two parents.
I can tell you her age. She's going to be 81 years old, but you'd never know it. She works. Her energy level is off the chart.
Well, you're the one that's going to catch the wrath for that. But anyhow, I'm going to say this, Charlie. You opened a can of worms here, because you may be asked to come back, whether or not you want to, because even your story of the accident and how God's used that in your life and so forth, we don't have enough time. But this has been beyond powerful. You guys don't see that maybe because you've lived it and you've only seen God's movement, and that's good, but people need to hear these stories. And so we are so grateful to have both you on it. I'm going to let PJ close this up. And there's been a couple times I could tell Kurt that I apologize. I might have cut you off, but there's like a delay. So I'm sorry that happened, but I don't mind cutting you off anyhow. But I'm going to let PJ close this up, but this has been my honor. That's not just rhetoric, man. This is good stuff for people to hear. And when you whipped out the 6 things about Zig Ziglar, Charlie, when's the last time you listened to that tape?
Well, they were all on those small little cassettes.
You haven't listened to it probably 20 years, but you went point by point by point because it's ingrained in you.
Oh yes, no, it is. There's no question about it. I did. Now that I think of it, I did replace those with CDs. In fact, I gave the Zig's "See You at the Top" CDs. I gave those to Chase here a few months ago.
That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, if I could just reiterate what my dad said, it's been an honor. And, it's interesting to, for you, what are a lot of like the basic life things that you have is part of what has made this build to last. And for you, it's commonplace. But just like you said, common doesn't always mean it's actually everyone has it. And these are things that people need to hear. So, if you're listening and this helped you take another step on your spiritual journey, which we hope it has, we ask that you'd like, share, and subscribe so that someone else can too.
Yeah,
what
button.
A blessing. Yeah.
Yeah, hit that button, subscribe, so that you can hear the Cramers, and we'll have them back even if they don't want to come. Thank you guys so much.
We really appreciate it.